All right, so in previous videos, what we did, and I don't believe it was in the last video. I think it was like in video 3 or 4, we started, creating our animations, and now we can actually utilize those animations. So if you remember in that video, I told you to go ahead and create the animations for all the moves that you want the character to do. So basically, just as a quick recap, what we did was we created an animation folder, and then we went through our sprites, and let's say if I wanted this attack or this dead animation. Basically what we did was we selected the first animation, says 1 here, and we went all the way to the last one, dead 10, and we shift selected them all. We dragged them into our stage, and then this animation save create animation thing opened up, and then basically we just gave it the name. So I'm gonna call it dead, and then we saved it inside the animation folder underneath a folder of the same name. So I'm going to right click and put folder, and I'm going to put dead, and then inside of that dead folder I'm going to save this animation. So once that pops up, I can go ahead and get rid of this big version of dead. So if I run the application right now, or the game, what you'll see is there's nothing on the character. It's still stationary, but yet all of our stuff still works. All our jump, everything we had before. What we want to now do is add the animation directly to this character. So now what I can do is select this player here. I'm going to take this idle animation. I'm going to drag it onto the player. And what it'll do is automatically create me. This was already there, but it created this player one animation animator, and it attached it here. And if you look at this, you see it says that player is attached to it. So then when I hit play, you can see that that animation is attached to it. Now all we need to do is add the animation to the run and all the other components connected to this. Now if I wanted to see the full extent of what I did, what I can do is select on my player right here, and then go here under the animator, under the controller, and I'm going to double click on that. And this animator window will pop up, and I'll be able to see exactly what I created here. None of these are attached so far, but if I select on this, you'll see it has a speed, it has other parameters here, and it has this cycle offset, so I can do a lot with the animator once it's already done creating what I needed. So let's say if the speed, if I put the speed at 2, what'll happen when I play this game, you'll see this cycle going a lot faster than it was before, as you can see there. So you do have some control even after you're done creating the animation. You can see it filtering through this, and this is how things are done. So if I start moving, what I want this to do is go from idle to something else. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this and go back to this animator, and or I can select this, select this box right here and then delete that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to put create states, and then from there I'm going to put new blend tree, and there we go. So this one right here, I'm going to rename it. Instead of blend tree, I'm going to call this motion tree, and then I'm going to double click this to open it. So basically what this blend tree is going to do is going to allow us to go ahead and blend between 2 different animations. If I go here back to the base layer, I can use that menu or the breadcrumbs at the top to be able to go between, views. So when I click on the blend tree, I'm over here, but if I wanted to go back here, I click on the breadcrumbs up here. So right now what I want to do is create a parameter that we'll be using in order to determine the motion or the blend. So I'm going to go here to parameters. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this plus, and I'm going to add myself a float, and I'm going to call that motion. So right now this field is still aligned to the blend. So I'm going to select on this blend. I'm going to go over here to where it says 1D, and instead of this parameter here, I'm going to click on, move this over, I'm going to click on this down arrow, and I'm going to click on motion right there, which aligns it to this parameter here, this float. So now when you look at the blend tree, it's directly connected to the motion field here. So now to be able to blend animations in here, we can go to this parameter here where it says motion. These are motion fields. So I'm going to add 2 motion fields. All right, so I have 2 motion fields here, and I want the first motion to be idle. So I'm going to drag this idle to the first one. And then I'm going to go here to walk. I'm going to drag the walk to the second field. So in order to see this in action, what we just did, we can go down here to this preview panel. So I'm going to make this a little bigger. And I'm going to turn it around just a little bit. Now in this preview panel, if I hit play, right now he's idling, and idling is at 0, right? So once I get, as I approach 1, it's going to get to the walk cycle. So I'm on 0. As I start going closer and closer to 1, there's this blend between the walk and the idle, as you can see there. You can see the marker up here blending between the two, or trying its best to blend between those two. So one of the things I want to do here inside of this animation, because right now what we're doing is we're using the idle animation, and the issue is the fact that this is inside a particular animation called idle, and we're actually using this this one right here, this play. If I were to double click on this idle, you can see that's the old one. I double click on this one, and this is the new one. So I really don't want this inside of here. I'm going to want this inside of its own folder for animation, and I'm going to put that all the way up here on the top assets folder. So I'm going to select on my assets folder here. I'm going to right click and create a folder. We'll call this folder or I could just call it animation. Animations. So I have my animations folder, and so I'm going to go back to this idle folder, and I'm going to drag this one right here into the animations folder. If you don't see the animation that, like when I click on this, if you don't see the character here, then basically all you need to do is go to the player and just make sure that this animator right here is pointing to the player that you want it to point to, and then everything should be fine from there. So when I click inside of this right here, this controller, then I click on the tree, the blend tree, it should all be there. So this was just a matter of me moving the folders around, you know, because I wanted this to be on a main animation stage. So as I start adding animations, I already have my animations sorted. I just wanted this right here, this controller, to be in a place where it's not specific to idle or fall or anything like that. If you don't have a problem with yours being in the folder that you have it in, don't worry about doing what I did. You can leave it as you have yours. Everything will still work the same. Now all we need to do is take the animation graph that we have, connect it to this motion. We're going to do that inside of our code. So we need to go back to the code. So I'm going to make sure I save all of this. I'll go back to my player. I'm going to go back to the player controller. And I'm going to double click on this player controller right here to open it up inside of Visual Studio. So the first thing we need to do in here is we're going to create a reference to the animator component, and we can probably put that here. And then we're going to want to know what kind, as an integer, the motion intervals. So we're going to have to create that here. the motion. And this motion is referenced to the animator, the parameter that we created inside the animator. So if I were, go back here, you'll see we have this motion parameter. That's what this is talking about. That's what it's referring to. So anything we do with this is going to have to be done inside of the fixed update. So we're going to have to do it inside of the fixed update here. And here is where we can go ahead and update our motion animation. So I'm going to call this animator. Set motion value, sorry. And then we're going to have to call upon the absolute value of this particular number, because if you remember, because we're dealing with the horizontal value, it goes from negative to positive. So we want to make sure we never get a negative number when dealing with this one, because we want that animation. Remember, our animation, if you look over here, our animation goes from 0 to 1. There is no negative 1. We would actually have an error if we were not calling upon the absolute value. So this is why we're making sure that whatever value we get is not negative. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 0.1 F, and I'm going to give it a delta time. This is going to smooth out the transition between the animations. And get an error on this one simply because what's happening here is that I have my horse value down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to go ahead and add that inside of this part here. I'm going to add it down here. Let's go ahead and run this inside of Unity, but I can go ahead and push my animation tree over. That way I have my blended, I can see everything over here while I'm running the game. So I'm going to hit play here. So I have an issue here. It looks like I have a problem here that I need to resolve. So let me go check that out. So looks like what I forgot was to go ahead and add this animator here. So what I need to do is go right here and call upon this animator, and that's going to equal get component animator. Okay, so now let's go back and try it again. Gonna clear this. And there we go. Now it's moving around. And now I can see it over here going back and forth. You know, and with this, we can still add a jump, or we can just leave it like this, where he's kind of walking, jumping at the same time. But we got a transition between our character, the idle position, and the walk position. So this looks pretty good. We're well on our way. All I have to do at this point is maybe add some animation to this, add a jump or whatever. But for right now, I'm okay with this. We can move forward from here. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this. And I think we'll go ahead and stop the, we'll kind of stop the video here. I think it might be going on a little bit too long. When we start off again next time, we'll go ahead and add a little bit more to this level, add a little bit more to the game, maybe add the idea of dying to the game. Make sure that you share this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.